This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and Flowchart with your boy,
My boy,
Matt Wolf and Joe Fair. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Presented by Evergreen Profits.
Oh, hey.
We need to make sure we tell people this is the Evergreen Profits podcast more, I think.
Yeah,
Because-
but I like the name Hustle and Flowchart.
Yeah, so we're the Hustle and Flowchart podcast presented by Evergreen Profits. And from now on, we always say that whole thing when we announce our podcast.
Okay, sounds good, Matt.
All right.
Who do we have on the show today?
All right, so today we've got a really awesome guest. He's got a ton of great software tools, and we're going to talk to him about the launch model and why he used to do the launch model and why he no longer does the launch model. And we also talk about viral list building, how to use viral tools to make your list growth just explode. So really, really cool stuff. Our guest today is Wilco de Kreij. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Wilco de Kreij is the founder of UpViral and Connectio.io, which has some great Facebook management tools like Connect Explore and Connect Leads, and a lot of cool stuff that puts your Facebook targeting on autopilot, puts it on steroids. So we have a lot of cool conversations that we dive into with Wilco today. And it's really about list building is, I think, the kind of core is how to really put that list building on steroids and make it just grow really fast. So,
But it's not your mama's list building, all
not
right?
your mama's list building.
It's something new and fresh. It's something that we're going to give it a try more so. We've done a little bit of it, but we've done it ineffectively. Now we know what to change because we talked to Wilco. And now you're going to listen to Wilco. Go.
yeah. Hey, Wilco, thanks so much for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Good. We're excited to do this show because we actually use a lot of the tools that you make and use some of the strategies that you teach. So it should be fun to see where we can take this thing.
Oh, that's awesome. I was actually telling my wife, this is the one podcast I always listen, so the pleasure is all mine.
Oh, that is awesome.
That is cool. I didn't know that, man. Yeah, that's a crazy thing about podcasts. You never know who's really listening until you start talking to them face to face, you know?
Yeah, I'm a big system nerd. I love systems and processes. So yeah, it's your podcast is the obvious choice, right?
That's what I would like to say.
We try to make it be at least.
Right.
Awesome. Well, let's start by going a little bit back in time and talking about how you got into marketing and how you got into business, because I've been using tools like UpViral for years and years and years now. I don't even remember when it came out. It feels like I've been using it and playing with stuff like that for a while. So how long have you been in marketing, and how did you kind of get started and get into the SaaS world, and kind of tell us that story?
Yeah, sure thing. So it's actually a long story, so I'll make it short. But it actually started when I was 16. So that's 15 years ago. Currently 31, which is ages ago, I guess, in the online world. So back then, online shopping wasn't a big thing, at least not here in the Netherlands. And at that point, the movie The Matrix, right, where every character has their own pair of sunglasses. So I was a 16-year-old boy, and I was like, I want to have one of those, but here in the Netherlands, they were nowhere to be found. So started looking online, and I found a company in the US who were selling them, and shipment costs were through the roof. So I figured, I'm gonna set up some ads where people are not paid ads, but on a free eBay kind of website here in the Netherlands, where people could basically order these sunglasses but they had to pay me first, and after they paid me, I could actually put the order out, wait 2 months to have these sunglasses come to my place, and then send them to those people, right? And I was hoping to maybe sell maybe 20 or so I could maybe have a free sunglass. And what happened is that we sold for, I say we, but what I mean is me, my parents, they helped me out afterwards. But we sold just over 17,000 euros worth of sunglasses, and they were 4 or 5 euros each. So there were thousands and thousands of sunglasses.
Wow.
Did not expect that to happen. And that really, I sort of stumbled into that, and that really opened my eyes on what's possible. And obviously, I got excited. I didn't make any money because I didn't think about taxes and all these other stuff that you don't think about being a 60-year-old kid. And I learned that I don't like the physical, the actual making the packages and dealing with customer support, but I did absolutely love the marketing side of things. So over the next couple of years, I kept doing that, importing various physical products. And then I started on the Google AdSense bandwagon. I'm not sure if you guys been there as well. Have you done a lot of Google AdSense?
Yeah.
Yep. We still do to
Yes.
this day. We still have it on some of our sites.
Yeah, that's actually true. So so what I started doing is I would say a bit gray hat ish. I started working really well, and this is like, once again, this was over 10 years ago. Like I was 18, 19, and probably like that, like 13 years ago. And it went really well. At some point, obviously, they shut down my account, which they should have. So I went back to zero. Then I started doing a lot of affiliate offers here in the Netherlands for like not the digital kind of products, but more like for actual real world products. Started doing a lot of paid traffic using Google AdWords until they changed their algorithm, and went back to zero. And that's when I started like, hey, I want to do something international, like outside my country here in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. And I ran into some issues, like typically on Facebook, and I hired someone to create a tool around that. Like this is still years ago. And at some point, to cut the story short, I started selling that tool, and I realized that I really liked selling software, and that's really like where things took off. And I've been doing that ever since, by basically creating various software products that help other people be more effective with their marketing. And I could go on for ages, but I don't want to bore you to death. So that's the short story.
I love the fact that you almost went on both very far sides of the spectrum, selling physical items, which, there's so many things involved there, to now SaaS, where it's extremely scalable. You still have customer service, but there's so many better elements, at least or at least it sounds like it suits your personality a little better.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So what was the first SaaS product that you put out? Because I know you have sort of a suite of tools now. What was the first one?
That's a good question. Like the first one wasn't software as a service. It was like actually a WordPress plugin, which I wouldn't count as SaaS, but still. And that was called WP for FB, WordPress for Facebook. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of that.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah,
it's like years ago, and it's actually not mine anymore. At some point, I actually sold that business. But it was basically like back in the days at Facebook, you could have like a Facebook fan gated page on your Facebook page. So people had to like your page before they could access another page inside your Facebook page. Sounds weird and technical, but basically that WordPress plugin made it easy. Right. It's actually funny. Like I'll make it short, but like the very first time I created that, I actually gave it away for free. And I said like, hey, here's your enter your email address. It was my first time I started building a list. Enter your email address, and right after, if people would actually share a message on Facebook, they would get some extra template. And you already see where I'm going with this. Like that was the first time where I sort of realized what you can do is if you ask people to share something, that's actually where a lot of my current business has actually started on. So it's all from putting things into practice, I guess.
I like it. And that's and now talk about kind of the progression. I'm curious to hear the progression of these SaaS products that you've developed.
Or just software in general, software and
software.
SaaS products.
Yeah.
What was that sort of progression of tools that you released?
Yeah, sure thing. So with WordPress plugin, the biggest downside is that there's always some other plugin or template which is just not compatible, or people don't know how to install, or just not compatible with a certain server. In other words, a big headache for like custom support. So it was an obvious choice to move to SaaS, where basically they just get a login and either it works or it doesn't, basically, right? It's that simple. There's nothing like it doesn't work on this server or that server. It just works or it doesn't. And obviously it should work. So what I started doing is I started launching various products. A lot of people in the sort of quote unquote online marketing industry or the internet marketing industry, what they do is they create a product, they launch it with like a lot of affiliates involved, and they create a huge buzz around it, and they offer a crazy good deal for a couple of days, and because it's just a couple of days, everyone has the incentive to jump on top of it, because the next week the deal is going to be gone. And the problem is that like a lot of people, what they did was like, right, so I launched this product, the launch is over, made a lot of money. What do I do next? Well, I create a new product. So what did Wilco do? I did the exact same thing. I figured, what, I'm going to launch a product, and I didn't want to be like all the other guys. All the other guys, they launched a product like every 2 months or so. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to launch a product every 6 months. I want to create epic products that are worth it and that are well developed and like sustained and whatever. But still, even if you launch a product every 6 months, a new product, I mean, the first year, sure, that's fine. Second year, all right. And then the third, you're sort of going to drown because now you got like 5 or 6 products that you need to maintain, that you need to get updated. And like, you cannot just, maintain, but like spread your attention between like 5 or 6 products and expect it to be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the money is good, as a lot of you know, but like, it's not a business model. I would say it's a trap. I mean, you guys probably seen this happen a lot of times, right?
Oh yeah, we've been behind the scenes, and we've also, had our own launches, and it's extremely stressful. It is good money, or it can be, if done properly, but it seems like everything's always kind of last minute. There's always something that you're like, crap.
Yeah. that is like every single launch we've ever been a part of. There's something that slips through the cracks until like 3 hours before you're supposed to open the cart. And then the night before launch, nobody gets any sleep because you're making sure everything's like just perfect for when the cart opens. And it's stressful. And from an affiliate standpoint too, we're affiliates as one of our largest revenue streams. We actually pretty much shy away from anything that has an open and close date. Because if we're going to put in a ton of work to promote a product and to build out email sequences and to create content around this product, we don't want that product to shut down in 4 days. We want all of our hard work to pay off in perpetuity.
Exactly. And just like you said, like, it's so stressful. Like, it's insane. It's funny, actually, like, because it was so stressful. And like I said before, I'm a maniac in terms of systems as well. So before I made a decision to move out of that launch team, what I actually did is I pretty much broke it down into a process, like in detail, so that I could actually have it all prepared. So actually the last 2 launches that I did, which are quite a few years ago, they were all set up in advance, and like, there was nothing I had to do. And even so, there's always something that you didn't think of, and it just blows up. I mean, one of my launches, Amazon S3, like the hosting that everyone seems to be using, it went down. I mean, it never goes down, and it goes down in the middle of my launch. I mean, that's down to the launches. You're putting months and months of work. You're trying to cram it into like 5 days.
Yeah.
And all the work that you're doing is gone right after, just like you just said. So yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. And I mean, from an outside perspective too, a lot of people look at these launches and go, man, look at all the money these guys made on this launch. Now they don't have to work for another year, because they just made all this money on a launch. But what they don't see is there's affiliates getting, close to 50% of that money. There's contests, there's copywriters, there's video creators, there's so many people behind the scenes that have to get paid, that the numbers that you see that people talk about when they show their launch numbers are usually not quite as sexy in reality as what it appears to be.
Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of people that are doing launches with multiple people, and that's the exact reason why I always did like a solo launch, because it literally breaks down your profit like massively. Sometimes, like, if someone is launching with like 3 partners, so for, like I said, 50% to affiliate payments, and then at the end split it by 3. So yeah, there's hardly any money in that.
Yeah, and something that I ran the calculations back in the day when we were doing launches, and just compared it to if we were to decide to just do paid Facebook ads or even Google ads. And like you said, it's 50% typically straight to affiliates. If you're just using that to drive all your traffic for a launch, that is a lot of money that's going right out the door. Whereas paid traffic, most likely you're not paying that much. But if it's under that, I mean, just imagine what kind of evergreen launches or at least promotions you could do and keep a lot more money.
And the worst thing of launches as well is you're actually getting the worst kind of customers, because it's not about the product. It's all about the fact that it's a lifetime, because a lot of these offers, they sell it at a lifetime offer. So besides that, like, you're getting the worst kind of customers who are just buying it because it's a good deal and not because they actually need it. And secondly, like, it's not a sustainable pricing. So actually, like, that, I remember the last time I launched it, I made a decision to stop with the lifetime licenses and to start recurring. And that was a hard change, but it is like, if you want to move away from the launch cycle and start an actual business, you just need to do that, at least if you're into software.
Mm-hmm. So what was the it sounds like that was like a compounding breaking point for you to make the change, but how did you actually shift into not relying on this launch model anymore?
To be honest, it was actually hard in terms of, like, because you, at some point when you're doing all these launches, you're surrounded by people who are doing all these launches as well, and people who expect you to do this kind of launch and who expect you to sell like lifetime licenses. Mm-hmm. So I remember at some point, I don't know what the trigger was, but at some point I told myself I want to do recurring. Like that was the goal, right? And I know it's in short term I'm not going to make a lot of money. Like all my profits are going to dry up for a while, and I have to stick with it. And I remember at some point I got multiple affiliates. They were like, "Hey, can I set up a special offer for my audience with a lifetime deal?" And I said no. I'm not doing it. And some of them actually pissed off and actually burned some bridges because they're like, why wouldn't you give my audience a good deal? I'm like, I can give you a good deal, but it has to be recurring. Like I'm not doing any lifetimes, even though I know that on the short term, it would make a lot of money for me. Like I could, some of these affiliates, they were like big hitters, if you would call them, like they could bring the heat and they could do a good amount of sales in a short period of time. But it wasn't about the money for me. It was like, as soon as I allow myself to sell a lifetime, even if it's just one, like I make no exception to friends, whoever, like nobody gets a lifetime, because if I make that exception, then then I sort of slip back. I mean, it's sort of like you want to stop smoking and you go for one cigarette. Like you have to stick with it, even though if it's hard, but you know that on the other side of the world it's actually going to be better, which it is. But you just have to go through that initial period.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And in the lifetime offers too, we were actually talking with somebody during Traffic and Conversion Summit. As of this recording, Traffic and Conversion Summit was last week, and we were talking to somebody there who has a company that helps people get into FTC compliance. And there's actually a lot of sort of FTC implications of calling a product a lifetime product, because it's sort of unclear. It's lifetime of the product, lifetime of the buyer, lifetime of the seller. There's a lot of gray area there, and the FTC really does not like people calling anything a lifetime product. So, just based on the fact that the FTC doesn't want people doing that, is probably a good enough reason to try to figure out how to shift away from that anyway.
Right.
Exactly. And yeah. So, exactly it.
I have a question. Now that you're more focused on promoting these products on an evergreen basis, how do you ensure that the sales stay consistent as far as scarcity goes? Because one of the big things about a launch is that people buy due to the scarcity. They know they've only got 7 more days to buy it, 6 more days to buy it, 5 more days to buy it. And then obviously on that final day of the launch, that's always the biggest sales day, because everybody knows this is my last chance to get it. How do you sort of make sure with an evergreen product, there's still kind of a buying frenzy going on if you don't have that same scarcity element to it?
Yeah, so that was actually something I had to figure out as well, because usually I always had like the VSL, the long-term sales pages. So I actually needed to change that. So initially, the first test that I did was I started doing like the 3-part video sequences and running ads that did not work. Like I did a lot of different tests. And the one thing that I found that's working best for me is our webinars, and I mainly do evergreen webinars. So using EverWebinar, probably you guys know about it. And because I didn't want to change the price, I didn't want to give people a discount on things, I figured what's the next best thing to do, and that is to add extra bonuses and to take those bonuses away. So I've actually created various products that every now and then I release, which are all like training courses around UpViral. And I do a special offer. Basically, I tell them like, hey, if you buy UpViral right now, then you get this for free. And I actually remove that after a while, and then a month later or so, I'll add another one. So by adding things as a bonus for free and taking that away, you can still drive scarcity without changing your pricing.
That makes sense. I like that. And that's similar to how we run our own affiliate promotions as well. Not being the product owner, but keeping the scarcity kind of hot, and kind of creating these mini promos, I guess. We kind of do them once per month or so. Similar fashion to what you just said there. So that's pretty cool. How now that you're not doing the launch so much, what's your traffic source, or how do you make sure you're always getting enough traffic to kind of sustain and keep growing?
Yeah, sure thing. So initially I did a lot. My main traffic source was actually UpViral itself. So we use UpViral to get people to share our campaigns with others. And last year, that being 2017, we started doing a lot of Facebook ads, which actually turned into our number one traffic source at the moment. Number one being Facebook ads, number 2 being YouTube ads, probably. And this year, I actually wanted to add in affiliates back in, because I sort of like, after I stopped the launch model, I've never really leverage that channel anymore. So I want to tap into affiliates as well this year.
Yeah.
And we're also setting up a lot of content marketing at the moment. So I'm not getting a lot of traffic out of that yet, but I'm envisioning that to be one of the main traffic drivers by the end of this year as well.
Yeah. With the content marketing stuff, it's definitely more of a marathon than a sprint strategy, because we've gotten to a point now where the content marketing has actually become our number one source, even more than our list. We can actually broadcast to our list, and it'll still drive less traffic that day than Google will drive to us through SEO. So, over time, it just kind of builds up and builds up and builds up, and the next thing you know, the content is what is driving all the traffic. So I definitely think that's...
And by the way, for those who are listening, if you want to have an awesome resource, you guys, we all know who that are. Like you guys have created an epic video about Trello and your content marketing process. Add it to the show notes, because that is an epic video that I highly recommend everyone to watch, because it's just, it's basically our content process to the letter. So thanks for that.
I love that. Awesome.
That is
We'll
cool.
definitely add it to the show notes. Now, you actually touched on something that I wanted to kind of dive in on, and we didn't actually plan on talking about this, but I wanted to ask about it real quick. You mentioned YouTube ads, and YouTube ads is actually one of the things that Joe and I have experimented with quite a bit in the past, but we've never actually managed to get profitable with it. So I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I was kind of curious if you had any sort of quick tips or what works for you on YouTube ads.
Yeah, sure thing. So first thing I did when I started was actually copied my best performing Facebook ad. And the Facebook ad is quite good looking, right? Like the blurry background, me in the well edited and all of that. So I figured, that one's going to work on YouTube as well. It did not work at all. And then I started doing some research, see what other people were doing. And I saw some videos that were watched over 1 million times, and they looked like crap. Excuse my French, but they did not look good. So I literally went outside, grabbed my iPhone, and actually made it a bit shaky on purpose, right? And I recorded the video on my iPhone just real quick. And that one actually was profitable. I'm like, wait a second. So I think my point that I'm trying to say is don't make it look professional, make it look like real and authentic. That seems to be working better on YouTube ads.
Got it. So you would literally just kind of go outside with an iPhone and sort of selfie shot, hold out the phone with your hand and shoot a video?
Exactly. Yep.
I love it. That's what it seems like these days with a lot of ads, even, is if you just look like you're more authentic, it's real, you're not over polished, because that's when people start questioning. It's like, oh, big brand, or they just kind of put some objections in their mind. But if you're real, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're starting to do with our content as well, and it definitely resonates a lot better.
Definitely.
So just for example, when you're running Facebook ads, for anyone who's listening, for example, we have UpViral, right? We could run ads from a Facebook page called UpViral, or from a Facebook page called Wilco the Kreij, my personal name, right, with my face on it. If we target a cold audience, people who've never heard of us before, the Wilco the Kreij page, the one that seems like a person, always outperforms the branded one. And as soon as it's actually retargeting, the one that's branded, the one that's about a viral, always outperforms the non-branded one. So that's a quick tip right there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we actually do something very similar with a lot of affiliate promos that we do. That's kind of one of our little sneaky tricks that I don't know if I've actually shared on the podcast before, but we do something very similar with Facebook ads, where my personal profile is the first touch that people see. So, for example, let's say ThriveCart. We'll promote ThriveCart, and I'll have an ad that says, hey, this is one of my favorite tools. Here's why I like it. And it's just my name, my profile pic, and a little description of why I like ThriveCart. If they click the link, then they start getting retargeted from our branded page with retargeting ads, now that they're already familiar with the brand.
Exactly.
Very, very smart.
Do we want to move? Let's see. What else on the launch model? Because I'm curious, because this is really up our alley. We're all about just creating obviously the name is Evergreen Profits, but literally that's how we love to run any kind of promo of ours. Is there anything else that you think is got to get it out? Got to tell us.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I changed the pricing model, I think you also needed to change. I also needed to change basically the whole business. Before, it was really about, can I sell it? Can I create an offer that's tempting enough that people open their wallet and will will just pay me for it. And what happened after, like, didn't really matter. And that's why actually you guys made me smile at the very start of this call when you said like, hey, yeah, we've been using UpViral. And I'm like, yes, that is like, I don't want to hear people saying I have UpViral, because in the past I heard that quite a lot. Oh yeah, I have UpViral. I really should use it. Like, my goal is to get people to freaking use it, right? And that's really a big change right there. Like, it's not about getting, selling something. Selling something is easy, right? Relatively easy.
Yeah.
But getting people to actually use it and actually provide value at an ongoing basis, that's way harder. And but that's needed if you want people to not just open their wallet, but like if you want people to happily pay you a recurring fee every single month, every single year. Because if they don't use it, if they're not getting actual value out of it, they're not going to keep on paying. And also with that, it can be just a quick fix. Like the WordPress plugin that I mentioned before, it was really focused on a specific Facebook feature that Facebook would just literally blow out of the water and like it's gone, right? It's temporary. Like, it was not something that's evergreen. Like, while at UpViral, for example, we focus at making sure people want to share your campaign. Now, if there's one thing for sure that's never going to change, is that people will share things with others. Word of mouth has existed for like years and years, and it's going to exist 100 years from now as well. Like, even if Facebook suddenly disappears as a whole, people will still find a way to share things with others. They'll send through WhatsApp, through Instagram, through whatever, right? So also make sure that you have a strategy, you have a plan that's not just relevant today or tomorrow or this year, but also next year or over even in 5 years or 10 years from now. So those are definitely two things that I needed to change. Make sure it's actually real value, people actually use it. Make sure it's not just temporary, but it's actually long term. And once you have all of that, you sort of need to figure out how to position it and how to actually sell it instead of just selling based on hype, which is different as well.
Yeah, and I'm curious actually, now that you've moved to the recurring model, which we've had for a long time, how do you keep them sticking? Or actually, I guess the way you get them to stick is how do you get them to actually use the software. I guess, how do you initially get people to consume UpViral and get kind of hooked with using it?
So kind of what's the onboarding process to make sure they're actually using it?
Yeah, to make it sticky.
Yeah. To be honest, like I don't think we're like I don't think that basically I think there's still a lot to improve on that still. But something we've done is like we have a good like onboarding sequence which like takes them through the steps of what they need to do. For example, right now we're building a more like inside the app as well, so that it's really just a fluid change. Like initially, a couple years back when you started UpViral, it was not easy, right? And we were just adding a lot of features and extra benefits, and we realized that adding features is not what people want. People want to have something that basically there shouldn't be any friction. They shouldn't have to decide. So we basically went through the whole dashboard, like what decisions can we move away, like just remove them, or what decisions can we make for them, or like basically it should be as easy as possible. And obviously there's a bunch of other things that you can do, like gamification, for example, which currently we're not doing, but also just making sure they're like giving them a sense of they're part of something. So for example, in our Facebook group, we would talk about viral hacking, and we're all viral hackers, right? And I think we could do more on that, but like basically making sure they feel like being part of a cult could definitely have an impact on that. And you see, for example, Russell Brunson does that a lot with ClickFunnels. It's not just about the tool, but he really tries to build sort of like a culture around it, which makes people want to be part of the family.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things you can do, and still a lot of things to implement.
Yeah.
The upcoming year.
It's kind of like creating your own language, creating your own community. Yeah. Did you have a question, Matt?
No, I was gonna switch into a different question. I do want to talk about UpViral quite a bit, and we'll get to that in a second. But you mentioned at the beginning that you're a systems guy, so I'm curious if what sort of systems do you have in place that make your life easier and help your business keep running? Are there any like one or two examples you could share of systems that you put in place that have been pretty game changing for your business?
I'm not sure if there's one or two. Like, well, maybe a tool that I actually shared with you guys previously one-on-one, but it's good. It's just too good not to mention. Like, as you guys are, I'm a big fan of Trello. There's a lot of different systems that you can use as an alternative, but I just like the simplicity of it. But it doesn't allow for a lot of automation And there's this one tool, it's called Butler for Trello. And it just basically puts Trello on steroids. And basically what you can do is like, if someone drags, for those who are using Trello, if someone drags a card from this to there, then all of a sudden this person is added, it adds this and this checklist, and it adds a duplicate card on this and this board. Like everything just happens automatically. And that's just, so that's not really a system. It's more like a tool to create systems or to help the systems and processes move along.
I actually like that. On the Butler thing, just real quick, I actually went in there, and inside of Trello, there's like little add-ons that you can do, and there's like an add-on for that Butler. But you said that I think this was a conversation we were having through private messenger on Facebook, but you said there's one that's not the add-on version. It's like a different version of Butler. So where do you go and find that one? Because I couldn't figure out where.
Butler, like if you go to Butler for Trello, I'm not sure. I think you can still add it. Basically, the first time they started was before they had an official integration. So you basically had to add a new user called Butler or Butler for Trello, whatever, some kind of user, which is just a bot. And then you would literally write as a card, like it's like, hey, if someone moved a card to the list, blah blah, then do this, add a label, like you would literally write it all in the actual Trello board. And that one has just a lot more flexibility. And later on, they added the official integration, but they don't have all the things there. So I can definitely send a link your way. And also there are limits of what you could do with the free plan. It's actually a lot higher. Like in the one inside of Trello, you'll need to basically right away have the paid version. But for example, the other one that I'll send you a link for, I'm using that quite a bit, and I'm still in their free plan. So, and there's a lot more opportunities and possibilities there. So.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely send that link over, and we'll share it with anybody listening. Because I when I went and looked, I kind of Googled it real quick. I mean, I got to be honest, I didn't put a ton of time into it, but I did Google it real quick, and I couldn't figure out where the option was, because all I kept on coming up with was details about the one that was built into Trello that you just kind of add in. So that'll be super helpful to have that link. Yeah.
No worries.
Well, cool.
So I remember like when I started doing processes and systems, I was like, I need to systemize my whole business. I actually started using a lot of different tools. And what I realized over time is actually removed most of them because simplicity, that's more important than, having all the right tools. Like, oh, this tool is good at this thing, specific thing. And like, because it makes it complicated as well. And if it's complicated, people stop using it. And it's not just with me, but also other people in the business. So whatever you do, try to keep it as simple as possible. That's definitely something I'd advise as well.
Yeah, that's really cool you brought that. You took the words out of my brain, because the way that Matt works, he's our systems guy. I love systems in theory, but they need to be easy, and I need to kind of create a habit out of it. So Matt's really good at with Trello. That's why he made that video, and it was amazing. I could never recreate that video, but he's got that habit down. I know it's his brain is just fires like, okay, let's go to the Trello board. Whereas I'm over here, if there's too many tools in the mix, if there's just too many moving parts, I'm just like, oh man, which one do I focus on? And Trello, that has been a game changer for us, is to try to trim the fat and just kind of keep with what's necessary.
Yeah, and over time we've actually done that same thing. It's like a constant expansion and contraction, right? We'll add tools to the mix, add tools to the mix, add tools to the mix, and be like, okay, this is overwhelming now, and then we figure out what we can cut down and simplify. And it's just been this process of constant like add. All right, what can we get rid of now?
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's pretty funny because we end up doing 90% of our business in Google Docs and Google Sheets. Right. That's where we spend most of our time. Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Trello.
Yeah, that's funny. I actually removed Google Docs for most part as well.
Oh, yeah?
Did you? Wow.
Well, what do you use instead for sort of like internal documentation and things like that?
Trello.
Just all Trello.
Like we literally have a board where we just have like every card is like a certain document or like steps.
That's interesting.
We can experiment with that. Yeah. It's piquing my interest.
Yeah, because I mean, just like you, we want to have less places to check into on a daily basis. And right now, there's probably 3 or 4 different places that we're checking into to make sure we're keeping up with everything that's going on. And obviously, the best way to do it is to have just 1 or 2 places to check into on a daily basis. So that's really smart.
Yeah. Well,
and obviously use Slack as well.
Slack's amazing. Yeah, I know a lot of stuff can get lost in Slack too, but Trello, that's you can search it up fast. But let's start moving into the viral kind of how I guess, is that what you wanted to kind of transition, Matt?
Yeah. I want to talk about UpViral and viral list growth. And let's just start by explaining what UpViral does. And, we don't have to make this like a pitch fest or anything, but let's just, because I know you mentioned that in your little, when you filled out the calendar, you said you were worried about pitching, but let's just talk about what UpViral does and how it benefits people and what they can do with it.
Yeah, sure thing. So actually, I'll continue with the story I was just talking about when I created that first WordPress plugin, right? So just to recap, what I did is I created an opt-in page, and after I had basically a Facebook share to get. So people click on that Facebook share button, so they would actually share that with all their friends, and then they would get like, I believe it was some extra templates. And what was interesting is that I got hundreds of shares, but not that many subscribers. Altogether, over the course of like couple months, I think I got a couple thousand, but nothing spectacular. And I was like, wait a second, people want to share if they get an incentive. I mean, if I give you guys $1,000 to share something right now, you'd probably say yes. But like to prove the point that if someone is properly incentivized, they will share. But the problem is like a share is pretty much worthless, right? Because people share it on an empty account, or they removed right after, or even if they actually share it, they don't really try to convince their friends to subscribe. I mean, if I would just, with my personal friends, if I would just have an English message written, then they would know like, oh, it's not actually him. Like if it needs to be Dutch, if I actually try to convince them, right? Mm-hmm. That's when I saw what Dropbox did. It was just amazing, like super clever. They gave everyone their own unique invite link saying like, hey, it's not like sharing. I don't care about your share, but every single time one of your friends signs up through your invite link to Dropbox as well, you will get extra storage. In other words, you'll get something of value in return of that. And that's what blew up Dropbox. I mean, ask anyone, how do you know Dropbox? Everyone will say, well, I got it from a friend, because that's what they did. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a second, that's interesting. So I hacked something together where people would also get a unique invite link. And I said like, hey, if you get, I don't know, 3 or 5, and at least X people to subscribe as well, to actually enter their email address, then you'll get this free thing I got for you. And what happened is like people started sharing it everywhere, like not just once, but like multiple times. Like on Twitter, I saw people like frequently every single day until they got enough people to actually, subscribe and get that thing for free. I was like, wait a second. So that's really where it all started. So to answer your question, what is UpViral? Well, it does exactly this. So you can run viral campaigns, which means, for example, a contest or a sweepstake where people have a chance to win, but also just like a giveaway in where you say like, hey, if you get 3 of your friends to subscribe, you will get this and this and this. You will get a discount coupon or an ebook or whatever. And every single participant will have their own unique invite link, and you can incentivize people to spread the word for you. And guess what happens? If people do that, then their friends are going to see, they're going to click, they're going to subscribe, and they're going to get the exact same thing. And that's when it all starts to go into what we call a viral loop. So I hope that sort of explains it.
I love it. And that's it reminds me of back in college, just quick story. We were actually hired by as a school project to craft a viral YouTube campaign, or just a viral campaign in general. And back in the day, it's like, we tried to make a science out of it and to make it predictable and all that. We actually made it work, but it took like a couple years instead of like a semester. But with UpViral, it sounds like, I mean, you have that thing down pat, because I remember Dropbox for sure. And then you start to see all these other brands kind of hop on board with the same idea. And you're like, okay, there's something here, to this whole contest, this kind of giveaway idea. And my question, I guess, with this is there a way that you can filter, or how do you see the quality of leads that come in with doing this? Do you see, because I would imagine some people are sharing it with people who maybe aren't quite relevant?
It really, like the most important thing in terms of the quality, it really comes down to what you're giving away. So let's say I'm in the SaaS. If I would say, hey, I'm going to do a contest and you will get a free iPad. If you can win a free iPad, you might say like, hey, so techie people, they're the right kind of people. No, it's the worst thing you can do, because it's not targeted at all. So you need to create something that actually, is relevant to your ideal customer. Typically, we actually see 3 things that whatever you're giving away should be. So first of all, it should be valuable, right? So if my rule of thumb is if they wouldn't be willing to pay for it, they're not going to share for it as well, right? It needs to be exclusive as well. So it needs to be if they can get the exact same thing just with a quick Google search, for example, like if there's an easier way to get it, they're not going to do that as well. Same thing, like if you would sell something and they know they can get it somewhere else, they're not going to buy it, right? So obviously there's many ways to make it exclusive. You can brand it, you can do all kinds of things to make it more exclusive. And also, obviously, it should also be socially accepted, right? I mean, you could do all of this for some kind of an adult shop, but I'm going to guess that most people are not going to put that on Facebook, right? So it needs to be socially accepted to talk about it as well. And then, like I said, in order to keep the quality of your list high, it needs to be something that's really relevant to your ideal customer, to your ideal avatar that you have in mind. And obviously, not everyone is going to turn into a customer afterwards. That's only obvious. But what you're giving away is like the biggest impact or the biggest factor for the quality of your list.
Got it. Yeah, we were actually having a discussion about this same topic with somebody a few days ago. And, basically the example we gave is we tried to run a contest once, and I think a MacBook Air or something like that was the contest, what we were trying to give away. The problem was everybody wants a MacBook Air, whether they're relevant to our niche or not. And so we built a massive list really fast of completely unqualified leads that didn't end up buying our product when we went to go sell them something. So, that's kind of the problem that you could go down if the product isn't relevant to the niche you're actually trying to build a list in.
Exactly. And let's say you guys would actually give away, for example, a coaching session. Rest assured, like, no offense, you will not get as many leads, but that people who are going to share for that, they're going to they want your stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you can go wide with it and then use a product that's maybe outside of, but, it's still valuable, exclusive, socially accepted. Or you can go a little thinner, I guess, with the targeting. If you really wanted to.
It also depends what market you're in. I mean, if you're like in a mass market B2C, you probably you're sort of fine if you at least have the right demographic, and even if it's more wider, but you can still get away with it. I mean, we got people who are into B2C, like, for example, guy, he had over 100,000 leads in the first month. Are they all going to be super relevant? No, probably not. But because it's a mass market product, it's still going to be worth as well for sure.
Sure. Now, where would you recommend starting with doing a campaign like this? Would you go to your customers? Would you go a little wider with just the general audience? Obviously, it kind of depends.
Or would you go cold traffic like Facebook?
Cold traffic, yeah.
Yeah, but personally, I'm a big fan of that last part. So what I would actually do is I would actually start with a very specific Facebook audience, as targeted as possible. I would start with a little bit of traffic, and here's why. So I'm actually going to go a little bit into theory here. But there's a thing called the viral coefficient. Do you know? Have you guys ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I couldn't explain back to you what it means.
Yeah. So basically, what it means is it's like a complex formula. I'm not going to explain it all here, but basically, what it comes down to is that it basically decides whether something is going to go viral or not. So basically, if one person comes into your funnel at the very front and they enter the email address and X percentage is going to enter the email address and X percentage is actually going to share, and from that X amount of people are going to click on it, and that sort of is the loop, right? And if that one person coming in the very first step, if that on average is going to result in less than one new person, even if it's just 1.99, it is not going to go viral at all. And as soon as it's over one, it goes viral. That's the tipping point, right? So a lot of people, they think when it's about going viral, I need to be clever, I need to be lucky, I need to be funny, I need to be whatever. But it's actually it's a mathematical thing that you need to optimize. So I'll give you an example in one of my campaigns where I started off with a little bit of Facebook traffic, Facebook ads. And what I did, initially it did not go viral. And you can say, well, I'm going to start a new one. Well, what we actually did is we split tested both the opt-in page, and a lot of people know how to do that. We also split tested the thank you page. And what's interesting is at one of them, we said hey, if you share this with 5 of your friends, or 5 of your friends actually sign up, you get free lifetime access to this tool, right? And the other variation, we said something hey, right now you're on the waiting list, but if you share this with X amount of people, if X amount of people actually sign up, you beat the waiting line. You don't have to wait, and you get instant access, right? Which one do you think worked better? Getting a lifetime license to that tool, or just beating the waiting list?
I would say beating the waiting list.
Yeah, by 2.1 times better. It was nice. a lot better. And by split testing the opt-in page and by split testing the thank you page, we then made sure that when just went over the tipping point, right? Just by testing with a little bit of Facebook traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when once we implemented the winning variation, that's when we drove more traffic. And that's when it blew up and like everyone was sharing and et cetera, et cetera. So my strategy would always be to like start small, do some testing, take your learnings, because people think that going viral is just like click, and then boom, it blows up the internet. But if it would be that easy, like everyone would do it. So you need to get used to like, hey, what do people actually share? Do they want to share this or not? And just get a bit of a feeling. Mm-hmm. And then once you actually have that, that's when you sort of open up the floodgates and you drive up. But also, obviously, it needs to fit into your strategy, right? Maybe you already have a big audience, and obviously that's the low-hanging fruit. So then you can obviously just send out an email, and everyone will automatically be you can literally send out an email, and in that email, you can have to every single person, like click here to share on Facebook, and every single person on your email list would actually share their own unique invite link. So they don't need to actually first go into your viral campaign, enter the email address, or right away they can click on the Facebook button from the email that you're sending from Drip, Active Campaign, whatever.
I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, too, to test with cold traffic first, because your list is obviously warmer traffic that knows you. So by testing with cold traffic and getting a cold traffic offer that works really, really well, if it works well with cold traffic, it's probably going to work doubly well with your warmed up traffic that already knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly the point. Yep.
It's kind of similar to how we do our promos too. Like any product we used to launch, we stopped selling our own marketing products. But when we did that, it would always be a test with Facebook ads or even Google ads if we could. And if we can make that ROI, then it's game on with our own list. Obviously, you could scale ads. I just love how scientific going viral can be now, because going back, like I said, in college, that was, I don't know, probably 8 years ago now. It was literally just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something would hit.
Was that the video with the people playing with their balls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chocolate balls. Hey, but it worked. But again, it was completely unpredictable.
I can see how that can go viral, yeah.
See, that was the point. I'm curious about what would you recommend for like the duration of these things? Is there an ending time? I'm assuming there is, or do you have these evergreen?
Yeah, sure thing. So once again, it really depends on what kind of campaign you're running. So for those who are in B2C, what I see a lot of people, what works really well is more like a contest sweepstake kind of thing. So where you have like a specific time where like usually 2 or 3 weeks is usually best. And at the end of the period, someone actually wins something. So it's really like a contest. Mm-hmm. But for personally, for example, I'm in a B2B, or at least not like in a market where people do a lot of contests. I prefer to have like it on an evergreen basis. So it's not something where people can actually win something, but it's just something where people can actually, they unlock something, or reward, after they actually invite enough people. So have you guys seen the launch of Connect Leads a few years back? I'm not sure if you have.
Yeah, we actually promoted it.
Did we? Oh, yeah.
Oh, we connected. We promoted Connect Explore. So right. Connect Leads.
That was like Connect Leads was actually the first product of Connectio. And what we did, like you obviously know the 3-part sequence, like the Jeff Walker product launch formula, where basically you drip out 3 value-based videos before the actual product goes live. Affiliates can promote it and people can see it, and you build up a bit of a relationship. People are excited about the product, and then at the end of those 3 videos, after a couple of days, you then release the product. Boom, here it is. Spend your money. Right? That's usually how it works and how most people are doing it. So what I figured to do is, instead of creating 3 videos, I recorded 4. And at like basically 1 was a hidden special training video. And at the end of each of those 3 videos, I said like, hey, you know what? Thanks for watching this video. Below, you'll find your unique invite link. If you get 3 of your friends to sign up as well and watch these videos, then guess what? You'll get that extra rating bonus video with this and this and this in it. So that was at the end of video 1, at the end of video 2, and at the end of video 3. And what happened was that it was not just the fact that people started sharing and I got a lot of people on my list. But what's funny is that I got a lot of extra affiliates as well, because there was just a buzz going on in the Facebook groups. I got people hitting me up like, hey, my customers are asking me or sharing about this tool. Like, what is it? What's going on? This was all in the days before the actual launch, so people were still having time to actually promote it. So that turned out to be our biggest launch in the history of our business. And a lot of it was just because of the buzz it created in the week before the launch. And obviously, that's not evergreen. That was like a 1-week period. But we have a similar setup as at a recurring base as well.
I could see, because we're talking about evergreen promotions, and definitely with UpViral, using some kind of campaign like that, what you just described, giving value and incentivizing people to share that for something in exchange, that it's like a perpetual launch that you can then create for your business, whatever you
perpetual
have out there.
traffic stream at least. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So
that's why I'm loving it.
No, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's how we've used UpViral. We've never to be totally transparent. We've never actually used the contest functionality. I've always used that sort of viral sharing. Share this with 5 friends, and you get X video or X ebook or some sort of thing that we're giving away of value if you share it with X amount of people. So that's how I've always used it, and I absolutely love it. I actually wanted to know, do you have any sort of case studies of clients that have used UpViral that have managed to just have like really, really big wins? Are there any stories you could share with us of other people that have used UpViral that have put 20,000 people on a list in a month? Or I don't know if that's extreme or what expectations.
That's actually not that extreme, but like I know, like one guy was funny. I don't know actually what industry he was in, but I read like it was just funny. He emailed me and saying like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever! Like I'm super happy with UpViral, and like our list is like it's growing." And like a week later or so, I got a very frustrated email like, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever!" and I was like, "Wait a second, what's going on?" So I started going back and forth, right? And what he did is like he did a giveaway where people can actually unlock something, and he was giving away physical products, right? Because he didn't think it would blow up that much. And then within 2 weeks or so, he had over 200,000 email subscribers, and like it just went it just blew up. He did not know how to handle that. So that's obviously not the best case scenario, but it did show what was possible.
If you're going to do a viral giveaway,
interesting what he did. He actually ran a contest, and he didn't have any audience himself. So you could obviously run Facebook ads. But basically what he did is he reached out to various, I think it were like communities or forums, online forums, who with the exact same target audience. And he basically struck a deal with multiple of those people, multiple of those sites, saying like, "Hey, I'm going to run a contest. If you promote it to your audience, then I'm going to promote to the whole list." He sold on the idea like it's going to go viral, it's going to be big. To that whole email list, I'm going to promote your product as a thank you. And various of these sites actually drove the initial traffic, and from there it just blew up. And he got, if I remember correctly, just over 114,000 subscribers in his first month doing that. And he's been doing a lot of contests after that as well, because obviously, it's been working well for him. So
yeah. I love it. And then my brain always goes to, okay, how can we now that we have all these visitors, because I actually just went to UpViral actually, and I saw you have a whole case studies page.
Yeah. Joe's reading the case studies on your website right now.
Yeah, as you were saying that, but I'm like, okay, cool. You could bring a lot of visitors to a website with this, obviously. How about retargeting? You obviously have a Facebook pixel on there, a Google pixel. Now you can literally look like you're everywhere to your most engaged people.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily just make your list go viral. It makes your pixel go viral as well, and your retargeting pixel.
Right. So
exactly,
this is cool. Matt, we need to do more of this.
I know.
Sure.
We will.
Very cool.
Is there anything else that something that we're missing or haven't asked you? I always like to kind of say that because there might be something that's on your mind.
No, I don't think so. I'd love to hear all the insights of TNC, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'm guessing you guys do a podcast on that.
We will.
I'm sure we will. I mean, we actually weren't inside of TNC. We went to TNC hallways and all the masterminds and networking events and parties and all that stuff, but we never actually made it inside any of the conference.
That's usually how it works, right?
So yeah.
There is a lot of good takeaways though, and I think it's a good idea we do a podcast because it opened up our eyes to ways to leverage our time and ourselves better. And it's kind of where our direction of the business is going. So
yeah, that would definitely be an episode more about, this year it's going to be more about business acquisitions and merging with other businesses and JVing with other people. And that was sort of our big thing from TNC this year was growing that kind of stuff. Yeah, growing a team and acquiring businesses have been our big focus lately.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's awesome.
So that'll be a follow-up episode.
Right. Well, cool. Let's wrap this thing up here. And we always like to ask, and because you've listened to all the podcasts. I know you've listened to every single podcast.
Every single episode.
What's a good book that you kind of go to often? Maybe it's every year or whenever you're just feeling stuck on something. Like it's kind of your go-to resource. Do you have one?
Yeah, well, I hate to say, but like I think I'm pretty sure others have said the exact same thing. But Expert Secrets from Russell Brunson, I actually use that one quite a bit because it's basically the outline of a lot of the webinars that I'm doing. So Expert Secrets is definitely one of them.
Good.
Cool. Yeah, that's. I mean, the two Russell Brunson books have probably become the most recommended books on this podcast, and for good reason. I mean, they're absolutely amazing books. They're books that you could, flip open and get the same value from one book that you'd get from a course that somebody back in the day would have sold for $2,000.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
They're excellent books, both of them.
What's the other one from James Franco? Work more, make less. No,
other way around.
Work less, make more.
Work more, make less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shramko. We actually did hang out with him last week. He came out to our party, and that guy, that book right there. Actually, I was just referencing it to Matt yesterday. We were talking about, okay, how can we grow profits for one of our clients? And it's like most people just think, oh, raise the price. It's like, no, there's actually like 5 or 6 other things you can do. And that's the type of stuff that James outlines in that book. It's super actionable. You could use it as like a guide for your business. It's really cool.
Exactly. Highly recommend it.
Yep.
Cool. So UpViral.com, that's the software that we've mostly been talking about on this episode. But do you want to kind of list off some of the other stuff? Is it Connectio.com or is it Connect.io? What was
it's actually Connectio.io to make it kind of confusing.
Okay, Connectio.io is the other suite of sort of Facebook related tools, right?
Yeah, all for Facebook advertisers.
Very cool.
Right
Very
on.
cool. Is there any other websites that you want people to check out? Do you have a personal brand website or a social media profile?
Actually, I really try to zone in on these two things. I think that's just way more effective. So that would be your last tip. Like if you're working on like 3, 4, 5 different projects, I've been there, I've done it, and I thought it was the best. But like cutting it back to 2, and even now I believe that if I would cut it back to 1, it would be even better. But cutting it back and just focus on 1 or 2 things, it's the best thing ever.
Absolutely. So UpViral.com, Connectio.io, that's where you can get all of your various cool tools. And thanks so much for hanging out and chatting about this stuff with us today.
Thank you, Wilco.
No worries. Pleasure's all mine.
Awesome, man. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
All right. Thank you. And I hope you just enjoyed this episode you just listened to. Now, right now, before we sign off, I have a few things I would love for you to do. So the very first thing is to go find our guest on Facebook and tell them that you loved their episode with us. That's going to help them just feel good about themselves, but also it's going to spread the word a little bit more for us. So go find them on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook, and go say that you love their episode and maybe one cool thing that you learned there. The second thing is to go to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast. Just look up Hustle and Flowchart and hit the subscribe button. And the very last thing, the third thing, is to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast and help us spread the word more. That's how more people are going to get this awesome knowledge, this cool podcast training, and a whole bunch of other cool free training that we give out at evergreenprofits.com. So that's about it. Go find them on Facebook, go subscribe on iTunes, and leave us a review. You would be amazing if you did that, but you're always amazing. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.